It is said that beneath the eyes of the falling moon, within the shadow of the clock tower, lurks a mysterious man, lurching under the weight of his wares, hands clasped but inviting. His cheery smile encourages a conversation, but that happy disposition masks more than just the depths of his eccentricities. He's knowledgeable, mysterious, and yet perhaps something more nefarious still. This is the curious case of the Happy Mask Salesman. Our story begins before the face of the moon was ever known. Following the unification of Hyrule under one banner, peace reigned throughout the kingdom, and Castle Town became a sprawling market, a center of entertainment, religion, and trade. At the corner, splitting the road to Hyrule Castle and the Temple of Time, stood a shop of a different ilk. In some histories, the roof is modestly adorned with inviting, smiling eyes. In others, the building is much larger, with a grand entrance robed in curtain walls resembling a circus tent. Inside, those smiling eyes belong to the man behind the counter, the Happy Mask Salesman, the leading dealer in the economy of happiness. Even here there's a misdirect. The mask salesman doesn't actually sell masks. By his own admission, he only lends them. Such a twisted business strategy turns the customer into the salesman. However, return with too little and his demeanor shifts from those smiling eyes to seething rage, thinly veiled threats. Outlast his mercurial nature, sell enough of his wares, and eventually he'll reveal a mask passed down by the mysterious Sheikah. How did such a mask come into the possession of a common merchant? And what other secrets may be hiding behind those smiling eyes? In a different future, Ganondorf, the king of thieves, usurped the throne and cast Hyrule into darkness, sealing the fate of the Happy Mask Salesman's shop along with it. Other tellings speak of the Happy Mask Salesman evading that calamity, or never having to endure it at all. In these stories, the Happy Mask Salesman ventures out to distant lands in search of rarer, more ancient, and more mysterious relics. Though curiously, one such artifact is in the Happy Mask Salesman's possession prior to his departure from Hyrule, as it is stolen by the Skull Kid in the woods prior to the salesman's arrival in Termina. In fact, Termina may not even have been his destination at all. He merely may have been passing through before enduring a terrible fate. Though with the mask-wearing custom at the center of Clocktown's upcoming Carnival of Time, it's unlikely a mask connoisseur of such standing as the Happy Mask Salesman would miss out on the event. It is here he proposes a similar bargain as employed in his Hyrulean days. Do something for him, and in return he will trade happiness. In this instance, reclaim a precious item and his precious mask, and learn the song tapped from ivory keys, restoring one's true identity. This bargain and the salesman's keeping of it is shrouded in vaguely prophetic language. However, until each end of the bargain is fulfilled, the Happy Mask Salesman responds with similar rage, before divulging the provenance of his precious mask and just how dire the situation may become, more dire than any thinly veiled threats. But there is an earnestness to his wild gesticulations and pathetic begging. He does not seem to underestimate the dark powers held within the mask, never leaving the clock tower. Once the power within the mask is conquered and the time loop broken, the Happy Mask Salesman departs Termina, continuing on his travels with his precious mask rightfully back in his possession. But just before doing so, he remarks on the masks the hero has collected and the happiness they hold. Such stories, laced with mystery and ambiguity, have led to much speculation regarding the true identity of the Happy Mask Salesman. Some consider him a god, a creator of the world of Termina, a trial in which to test Link. Some consider him a demon, part of the ancient tribe that brought the dark magic of Majora to life, and which pulls the apocalyptic moon ever closer. But what about the more obvious, though often overlooked aspect of his character? Consider this. In Ocarina of Time, he's largely pleasant, but quick to anger should his questionable business practices go unheeded. This, coupled with his perpetual smile, lend him an air of creepiness, like he's putting on an act. Even so, his business of providing happiness not just to customers, but also to those who sell his masks, seems genuine enough. At heart, he's exactly what his title says he is, a salesman, and presumably a good one at that, as both gold and purple dyed clothing were expensive items in the medieval period around which the Legend of Zelda, and Ocarina of Time specifically, is grounded. Keep this in mind. And lastly, not only is he proficient in selling unique goods, he is also quite talented at curating them. His possession of the Mask of Truth establishes him as no stranger to artifacts of unusual provenance and power. Let's apply this understanding to his appearance in Majora's Mask, where he reveals a few of his secrets to Link almost immediately. First, he travels far and wide in search of masks. It should not seem out of the ordinary then for him to be in possession of strange and mysterious masks, of which one was recently stolen. Tattle corroborates this later on. We see her cower behind Link when the Happy Mask Salesman first appears, like he's someone to be afraid of, and later she says this. Now, this is at the beginning of Link and Tattle's relationship. It sounds like she was stopping herself from admitting her complicity in the theft of the mask. It's not far-fetched to think she would say, the mask salesman was the guy we stole the mask from. Now, speaking of the stolen mask, the Happy Mask Salesman is ambushed in the same forested area as Link. The mask salesman also admits to following Link and knows that Link too lost a precious item, his ocarina. So it stands to reason that the Happy Mask Salesman witnessed this event, rendezvoused with Link under the clock tower, and now wants to barter with Link to get his mask back. And, as any savvy salesman would, he doesn't just ask for something he wants, he offers something Link wants as well, and cleverly, something already in the salesman's possession. But he also frames the situation to his advantage. You've met with a terrible fate, haven't you? It's unclear if he means this explicitly of Link, or if a bit of irony is meant for himself as well. As soon as the Happy Mask Salesman begins his pitch, a goofy version of the Song of Healing plays, as if to signify that it is, in fact, a pitch, and that the stakes of the situation are actually quite low. He even tries to frame it as such. Additionally, while some may view his lines regarding someone like you and having tremendous courage as eerily prophetic, it's more likely a consequence of his discerning and perceptive eye, buttering Link up to sweeten the deal, to entice Link beyond a doubt to accept the offer. It wouldn't take much for a man like him to see a boy with a sword and shield flipping over mushroom-covered stumps to reach that conclusion. Have you ever tried on a piece of clothing just for a salesperson to sidle up to you seemingly out of nowhere to tell you how stunning you look? But just because the stakes are low doesn't mean the task isn't urgent. The Happy Mask Salesman wants to be on his way in 3 days, having experienced the lead up to the Carnival of Time. This also doesn't seem out of the ordinary. He can witness the celebration of masks before moving on to other business. In this way, he is using Link, not to test him, but to get what he wants. When Link returns with his ocarina, the Happy Mask Salesman is overjoyed, though probably not just for Link, and more than willing to uphold his end of the bargain. He describes the Song of Healing as a melody that heals evil magic and troubled spirits, turning them into masks, before gifting Link the Deku Mask in commemoration of this event, telling him not to fear, for the magic has been sealed inside the mask. Which probably doesn't bode well for these Mario and Elvis masks and raises some interesting questions about Majora's Mask too. Though the mask salesman knowing this song may seem like evidence of higher power, throughout his travels in Termina, Link learns songs with such powers from a scarecrow, a little girl, a talking owl, giants, a monkey, 2 Gorons, baby Zora, a Poe, and a disemboweled kingly skull. Yet none of these characters are considered gods of a new world. In a moment reminiscent of his Ocarina of Time persona, when Link can't keep his promise, the Happy Mask Salesman goes into a rage. As he manhandles Link, the goofy Song of Healing plays again, in stark contrast to its earlier appearance, as the salesman finally reveals the true gravity of the situation. Interestingly, when speaking of Majora's Mask, he constantly refers to legend, and continually uses the phrase, "it is said," almost as if he isn't giving away the fact that he's part of this tribe, but because he is telling a story, one compelling enough to lead a man like him to such a mask. When it is intercut with events Link has just experienced, it makes the magic of the mask more real. But there's no direct evidence suggesting that the mask salesman actually knows just what kind of power it holds. He even says as much, but as a perceptive salesman and a leading connoisseur of masks, he can feel something is not right with it. Now, it is true that he went through a great deal to acquire that mask, potentially because it was better in the hands of an expert than, say, a mischievous imp. Here again, we see him shift between dramatic emotional states. The moments of panic and bargaining feel more genuine than the calm demeanor that returns when Link accepts the responsibility of retrieving the mask. And again, he butters Link up. Finally, with the mask returned, he leaves Link and Skull Kid with deep wisdom, or maybe a veiled advertisement to return to visit the Happy Mask shop. I don't believe the Happy Mask Salesman is god or demon, malevolent or omnipotent, just exceptionally good at what he does, and overly dramatic when things don't go his way. His keen perception of a potential customer, his eye for extravagant antiquities, and his unique place in the world lend him a sense of mystery that to me is more compelling when he's just another Hylian with particular sensibilities. This makes him less of a serpent in the tree or a Cathay and more of a Tom Bombadil, a creature existing in the world in a different way than what we may know. Although I'm pretty sure Tom Bombadil is actually a god. A couple of things about the Happy Mask Salesman to clean up before we go. Further evidence that he isn't a god or didn't create Termina is the fact that it clearly exists before Skull Kid ever steals the mask, and after the mask has lost its power and the mask salesman leaves, regardless of what the Zelda Encyclopedia may say. The salesman's seemingly instantaneous changing of poses is reminiscent of old cartoons, which use choppy animation stylistically to exaggerate and emphasize humor and movement, or in this case, to make things uncanny. Or maybe also in this case, as an economical choice to not have to animate as much. On that note, I never interpreted this end scene as him literally disappearing. He's departing on more travels, but in the interest of time, we're not going to sit here and wait for him to walk over the horizon. And finally, besides his roles in Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, he also appears in Oracle of Ages. But because that offers no real distinguishing insights into his character, it can effectively be ignored. Characters like this, that exist seemingly inexplicably, offer a perspective on the worlds they inhabit that simultaneously add a layer of depth and a layer of mystery. And in fact, not knowing everything about them is what makes them so compelling. Sometimes when the mask provides so many questions, there's no need to see what's under it. Or so it is said. Thanks for watching.